I posted this poll to my YouTube posts, and the results were a little concerning. It turns out that nearly a quarter of my audience of red-blooded men don't believe that a man ought to be dangerous. And it just goes to show how neutered our generation of men has become. Now, maybe there's a little bit of misunderstanding about exactly what the term dangerous means. To be dangerous does not mean that you are violent or that you are unnecessarily harmful to others. Instead, to be dangerous means that you are free. It means that you are able to defend your freedom, and you're able to defend and protect the freedoms of others. Because one thing is for certain, there will always be others that wish to exploit weakness, that wish to take freedom from you. And not only your freedom, but also your very foundation and your quality of life. And if you remain weak as a man, you leave yourself open to attack. You leave yourself and everything you love vulnerable to being taken by men with much more sinister intentions. So what does it mean to be a dangerous man, and how can you become one? Well, that's exactly what we are going to learn in today's video. A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. To be dangerous is to simply have power, and you can use this power to exploit and control others in a negative way, or you can use this power to create a positive change, both in your life and the lives of others. If you are simply not capable of being dangerous, how can you be truly virtuous? Are you virtuous simply because you have no other choice? Because you actually can't inflict any harm or pain? Are you virtuous out of choice? Or are you virtuous because you aren't capable of being anything else? As Dr. Peterson says, it's better to have the capability for harm and to choose not to use it than to simply be incapable. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war zone. And when you are dangerous, you can be independent. A weak man is always reliant on others. But if you're able to look after yourself, you're able to look after the people that are important to you. That's a really powerful position to be in as a man. I actually think it's the position that you need to be in as a man today. So let's look at exactly how we'll get there. Starting off with the intellectual side of things. Most men today are easy to control because they are ignorant. It's like they are walking around with a blindfold on. And most people have no interest in learning or educating themselves beyond the mandatory education or the things they have to do to earn a living in their job. And throughout history, the most dangerous men have not been the strongest, biggest warriors. They have been the men who are the intellectuals, the men who've studied history. They study their opponents. They develop and create new ideas, new ways of living, new forms of governments, new ways of fighting wars, new religious or political philosophies. And if you want to become more intellectually dangerous, a great way to do this is to read books that have been banned by governments across the world, especially books that have been banned by first world governments. Here are three great novels to start with. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, 1984 by George Orwell, and Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Personally, I would say that Brave New World is the dystopian novel that comes the closest to our actual modern society. So read that one and it's really going to open your eyes. But there are also many non-fiction books that have been banned or deemed dangerous by governments, by prison officers. We've got The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, and then The Art of War. To be intellectually dangerous is to question the narratives, to question power structures, to question world events portrayed by the mainstream media. Ask yourself, is this really the right way of doing things? Or is this just what you've been indoctrinated into believing? Question everything. That is the first step to becoming a dangerous man. Of course, there is also a physical side to this. If you are weak, if you are obese, if you have sicknesses, these are not just burdens on yourself, but also society and your community. It is your duty as a man to be physically capable. You cannot be dangerous without a strong body. You can't be dangerous without discipline and training. I believe an absolute minimum for every man should be 3 times a week strength training. Personally, I train 4 times a week. And don't just go into the gym and throw some weights around. You have to follow a plan. You have to train with a specific goal. Train with intensity and focus. To take things to the next level, you can also engage in combat training, which I highly encourage. For me, my sport of choice there is boxing. I think the ability to strike gives you a lot of confidence that you can handle your own in any kind of street confrontation situation. Hopefully you'll never actually need to use these skills. Hopefully you don't put yourself in environments where fights break out, and if conflict does arise, you're able to handle it diplomatically and you're able to de-escalate things before anything becomes physical. But it does give you the confidence of knowing that you could if it came to it. It helps you understand also the mindset of a fighter. Right now I'm reading this great book called The Fighter's Mind by Sam Sheridan, and he goes very much into the psychology and the culture around different styles of combat training, whether it's Muay Thai, boxing, or wrestling. And another thing that comes through is a lot of these fighters, they are incredibly dangerous people, but when you meet them, they're very peaceful, they have a very sound mind. They are the least likely people to go out and cause a street fight because they know that if they did, they would do some serious damage. Learning any kind of martial art is also a very humbling experience. And even for me, when I'm with my boxing trainer, I'm training with a guy that's in his 50s, I think he might even be in his 60s actually. But when I watch him throw a punch and he's training me, you go, wow, not bad for an older guy. It goes to show that the ability to be strong and dangerous, it's not just confined to the muscle-bound bodybuilders that you may see on social media. In fact, there are many people walking around that are black belts that have been studying and practicing martial arts for decades. So it's good to be in those environments where you get your ass kicked now and then, or at least you know there are people that could kick your ass. But to be physically dangerous, you also have to recover properly, because an exhausted man is at his most vulnerable. So make sure that you are managing your stress levels. Make sure you aren't working 60, 70 hours a week and feeling anxious and worried all the time. Make sure that you are sleeping adequately to protect your mind and your body. Make sure that you are stretching, right? This is something that I ignored for a really long time, but now I make a priority every day in the morning, 15, 20 minutes of stretching. And of course, nutrition, because you can undo a lot of fantastic work with your training if your diet is a mess. But remember, without this physical capability, you will always be a victim. You'll be a victim to Big Pharma. You will be a victim to the healthcare industry. You will always be reliant on other people and other people's drugs to keep your body going. That's not what you want. You want to have domain over your physical presence, and it's all within your control as long as you train, recover, and eat properly. You cannot be a dangerous man if you are not free. You need to have freedom of thought, freedom of body, and also freedom of destiny. And in today's world, the ability to do what you want, to think how you want, to go where you want, it's all tied to money. So you need to have freedom financially as well. What this looks like in practical terms is actually having multiple streams of income. If one person can strip away your entire income in one decision, you're not in a very dangerous place. And we've seen today that people are losing their jobs over office politics, over things they've written on Twitter, layoffs that are completely away from their control. The way to protect yourself is to build these multiple streams of income. And the first way you can do this is to have a side hustle. Throughout my 20s, I've always had a side hustle. I would go and play gigs with my guitar to make 100, 150 pounds in the evening after going to work. I would get up early, record a podcast before going to my day job. And now what used to be my side hustle has actually become my full-time job as a content creator and an entrepreneur. But even now, I'm not reliant on any single stream of income. or any single platform. I'm strong on YouTube, on Instagram, and on TikTok. And I've also got my email newsletter with thousands of men reading that every single week. So if one of those pillars were to fall, it's not like the whole structure collapses. Through becoming a content creator through social media, I've developed also a very high ROI skill that I can take with me and apply anywhere. I can do this from anywhere. So somebody could take all of my money, they could send me off to a different country, but as long as I have a phone and an internet connection, I know I'd be able to rebuild. And the freedom and independence that content creation and using social media can give you is why I'm so passionate about helping other men utilize this tool. Because I found out that so many men have this ideal or maybe even this dream to be a content creator, to live a life of freedom, but they just don't know where to start, or they've got so many fears and hesitations that's holding them back right now. So if that is you, I want you to go and watch this free training video that I made for men in exactly the same position as you are in right now. And if you like what you see, you're even able to book in a totally free social media strategy session with me or my team, and we'll help you figure out exactly how you can use this amazing tool for yourself. Now, throughout history, men have always been persecuted for sharing information that the authorities have deemed threatening, whether this was writing a book, distributing pamphlets, organizing meetings, holding gatherings, or maybe even leaking secrets to the press. That has always been an incredibly dangerous activity because it's so threatening to the powers that be. Knowledge is power. But knowledge shared is much more powerful than knowledge simply obtained. If you learn something and you know something, but you only keep it to yourself, it doesn't have the ability to change anything. Today, it's never been easier and faster to share ideas away from the confines of the mass media, from corporate structures, from official channels. The deadliest weapon of all time is the thing that you're probably holding in your hand right now. It's the mobile phone, it's the laptop. And right now it is being used to rot and destroy the minds of millions of people across the world. But it's also being used to share incredible ideas, to share extremely powerful information. And you could be doing that too. It's just a question of taking this double-edged sword and turning it toward the world rather than allowing it to keep hurting you. So maybe that looks like you starting a YouTube channel, posting on X, posting on Instagram. Throughout history, the newest forms of communication, the newest ways of sharing have always been ridiculed or mocked. The older generations or the power structures will always try and discredit new technology. Even Ernest Hemingway, when he began writing the short story, that was seen as not as credible as writing a long epic novel like The Count of Monte Cristo. But now to us that looks completely ridiculous because we've caught up with the times. So why don't you catch up with the times too and realize that you are sitting on an absolute goldmine of potential to share ideas, to share your knowledge, to share things in a very powerful way. The final step to becoming a dangerous man is one you might not have expected, but it's actually to be morally dangerous. People who have strong convictions, religious convictions, political convictions, even strong personal convictions, they have always been a threat to the ruling elites. Men who have no morals are very easy to control. They can be distracted with bread and circuses. They can be enticed with financial incentives or pleasures. And of course, they can be pacified with cheap dopamine, with technology, with distractions. On the other hand, to stand for something, even when it is unpopular, even when it is risky, even when it is possibly illegal, that has always been an incredible source of power. And we recently saw on a global stage how dangerous standing for what you believe in can be. And rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Now, your morals may change over time. You can still be open-minded, but make sure that you stand for something. Understand what is important to you. Whether it's a personal conviction, a religious conviction, a cultural conviction, whatever it may be, Use your voice to defend it. Don't take these freedoms for granted, because if you do, they will be taken away. History shows this time and time again. When people become complacent, that's when the enemies strike. When we are at our most distracted or pacified or comfortable, that's when the truly dangerous, the truly evil people in the world come and take those things away from us. So remember, to be dangerous is simply to be capable. It is to be independent, and it's to be moral. I genuinely believe that it's actually a matter of morality for a man to be capable of danger. Don't let modern society, the school teachers, the parents, the corporations brainwash you into believing that a man ought to be weak or passive or following orders. And danger comes in so many forms. It's not just the physical, it's also the intellectual, it's also the ability to be independent, to look after your own business. It's a matter of having these capabilities, of having command over these forces and using them for good. Because strength and virtue will always be a danger to the wicked.